Welcome back everyone. Today I'm going to review a non-fiction book called On Citizenship by Romila Thapar and Ram, Gautam Bhatia and Gautam Patel. This book is based on the much debated concept of citizenship, which has come to the fore after the passage of CAA in India, and a huge protest had broken out after this law was passed, and many people protested against it. And this book is exactly written in the context of CAA. There are four essays in this non-fiction book written by four very distinguished scholars. First scholar is Romila Thapar. She is a preeminent historian in ancient Indian history, and she is a Professor Emerita at JNU, at Jawaharlal Nehru University. And the second scholar is N. Ram. He is a journalist who was editor-in-chief of the Hindu newspaper between 2003 and 2012. Presently, he is chairman of Kasturi and Sons Limited, that controls the Hindu group of publications, and he is also publisher of the Hindu. The other two scholars, Mr. Gautam Bhatia and Mr. Gautam Patel, I'll be discussing about them in the next segment of this book summary, because I am dealing with only two essays in this video, because otherwise it will get too long. Now let's talk about the essay that is written by Ms. Romila Thapar. The title of the essay is Citizenship, the Right to be a Citizen by Romila Thapar. This chapter mainly focuses on the historical aspect of citizenship and how the phenomenon came into being. Also about the relationship between a citizen and the state. The narrative of the concept of citizenship can be taken back to the Greeks and Romans. In those times, it was a coveted status and open only to the wealthy urban dwellers. In those times, it was an exclusive status, and in our times, it is inclusive. Which means that it seeks to include everyone and not just the rich and the powerful. She says that diversities are inevitable in a society, but the rights and the duties of every citizen have to be the same, irrespective of these diversities. There cannot be a priority for some in certain kinds of rights. This equality, she argues, is secured by every individual through democracy, where each person's vote counts equally. In simple words, one vote, one value. There is one very beautiful quote in the book from her that I would like to quote for you. The essence of equality is that it is not imposed on a society, but is written into every function of that society. Then she talks about the citizenship in the context of capitalism and colonialization. When capitalism started to trend, the old aristocracies were replaced by the new capitalists. This also led to two new ideas. First idea was that if members of the society are accepted as citizens, then they should be treated equally. The second idea is that identities of caste or religion or ethnicity should not play any role in granting of citizenship. She then says that democracy that was beginning to allow the formulation of citizenship is now being stamped down in favor of actual or virtual dictatorships. She discusses how race was starting to be given primacy in the late 19th century Europe and got to its extreme in Germany, where the supposed difference of race between Jews and Gentiles was constantly emphasized, and the implied difference of religion was also viewed as a contribution to this genocide. She writes that this seems hauntingly familiar today in countries like India and Myanmar, where some of the majority, whether Hindus and Buddhists, are not averse to seeing their Muslim counterparts being similarly treated. Now she talks about the change in the concept of citizenship in modern times. The historical change of the lower orders of society from slave to serf to subject and finally to citizen was recognized as a change from having virtually no rights to having rights, as well as the right to assert these rights. This came about because most of the colonies in the recent past became independent and adopted a constitution that gave these rights to the citizens without discrimination. The constitution also elucidated on the duties of the citizens. So in this way, they gave something to each other. Now she writes about division of power between legislature, executive, and judiciary. She says that executive should not be tamed through corruption that becomes rampant with election to political offices. This leads to failure to represent the opinions of the citizens. The executive should not become the rubber stamp of those governing. The judiciary has to be independent and assert itself when the need arises. She also criticized the judiciary for its performance in the recent past in India. Then she addresses that government is not the state. So if a citizen is critical of a government action, it can't be described as anti-national. It is what it is, a criticism of the government, which the citizen has the right to do, she says. She then talks about religious nationalism and blames it for the creation of Pakistan. She tells that broader anti-colonial Indian nationalism did not support the Muslim and Hindu ambitions and instead envisaged India as a secular democracy. The idea of Hindu Rashtra was rejected by most of Indians, but then she says that now it seems to be resonating with a lot of people and it may well get there. She says that government politics in India has succeeded in alienating Muslim community from the Indian middle class and draws parallel between Germany's genocide and a similar impending situation in India which creates a fear for the future. She then tells why who is indigenous and who is not indigenous becomes complicated because the boundaries were not clearly marked during the past times. Lastly, she talks about the fact that the citizens themselves are not conscious and aware of their citizenship and the rights that it brings about. She says that citizens treat themselves as a subject of the state, which used to happen under colonialism. She emphasizes that the citizens have to be educated about the difference that comes between becoming the citizens of the state and a subject of the state. She says that the finances to spread this awareness are available, but they are being wasted on bullet trains, the tallest statue in the world, or the redesigning of the Central Vista in New Delhi. She believes that all of these are useless.